Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, mate. How are you doing?
I'm all right. And in fact, if I can't pronounce English, I'm going to struggle with this next word because I think you've been there. Djibouti.
Djibouti. I have been to Djibouti. What a wonderful place.
Tell us about it.
Have you been there, Mark?
3 or 4 times.
Yeah. It was quite an interesting little place, Djibouti. The Republic of Djibouti. Yeah, what a splendid place that was. On the Horn of Africa.
Yeah, it used to be a French colony.
Yeah, bordered by Somalia. So I think you got Somalia somewhere in the south.
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, southwest. Eritrea's up in the north, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the Red Sea. And of course, it's at the bottom of the straits, the Bab el Mandeb Strait.
Yes.
Opposite Yemen, and just slightly further off was the island of Socotra.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I've been to Djibouti a number of times as well. And that was when we were doing work out in the Gulf with the Royal Navy. And obviously, back in the day when we went there, there was like very little there at all. And I can remember getting off the ship and going for a wander around into the main town that we would have been. Where would we have been based? Where would we have been birthed?
Oh, in Djibouti itself. The name of the capital is Djibouti.
So where would we have been birthed, though?
No idea. In fact, I can't remember. I remember it was along wharf.
Yeah.
The first time I went there, I don't know how to put this across. You probably remember, but when you get to that part of the world, there's always a lot of sand in the air. So there's this slight shimmer and yellowishness to the sky. Very hot, of course.
Yeah.
And I was there 82, 83, 84 and 85. I can't remember which one. It was when they had the famine, which eventually came into Band-Aid. And we pulled up along the wharf, and there was a lot of refugees there, and they were in a state. And I think it's Port de Djibouti, which is towards the north. It's like a peninsula, but it would have been built up now, probably beyond recognition to where we went.
So you're right. I mean, Djibouti itself is that principal seaport, isn't it? What I can remember, and I say I've been there, I was out there 3 times, I think, in Djibouti. And one of the primary things I can remember is walking through these incredibly dusty, sandy streets looking for a bar, because that's what Matlows did, didn't they? They went looking for a bar. And there were lots of beggars on the streets who had got deformed legs. And I was told by people that I met that these guys with their deformed legs would often be broken at birth. And whether this is right or not, I don't know. That they'd be broken at birth by family members so that they could go out and beg to make money for the family. So they were perfectly healthy when they were young, but then they were mutilated so that they could raise money begging for the family. Whether that's right, I've got absolutely no idea. But that's certainly what I was told when I was met out with people in the pub as I was drinking with them. And one of the things with Djibouti when I was there, it's a big home for the French Foreign Legion.
Yes, yeah.
So, of course, I'm sat there in a pub and wandering there, which is nothing like a pub that we would have seen in Europe or in Britain, and go wandering up to this bar, and there's this white European dude sat there, very short hair, at the bar, and I wander up and I stand next to him and I order a drink, and I look at him and he looks at me, and I go, "All right, mate?" And he goes, "All right." He's a flipping Scouser. Yeah, he's a Scouser. I said, "What? You from Liverpool?" He said, "Yeah, I'm from Liverpool." I said, "What are you doing now?" He said, "Oh, I joined the Legion, didn't I? I joined the Legion." I went, "Oh, right." And we had quite a long old chat, and I think he had joined the Legion rather than stay in Britain, where he might have been wanted by some people that wanted to remove his liberty. So, he joined the French Foreign Legion. And we had quite a long old natter about, what the place was like and all the rest of it. Obviously, I can't remember all the conversation now, but it was quite odd. It was one of those moments where you just think, I'm in the middle of Djibouti, Africa, and I'm sat at a bar with a Scouser, having a bevy. Yeah.
Well, because we get everywhere, don't we?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. But it was a funny old place.
Very poor, and possibly still is in part. give it its due. There's a couple of places they said you should visit. So Djibouti is on the Gulf of Tajura, and there's a place called Tajura, which is supposed to be the place to go if you want snorkeling. It's fantastic. Right? Crystal clear waters. And behind it, there's the Goda Mountains, which is one of the few areas where you can get trees, green trees, in the whole of the country. Because it's predominantly flat salt pans and desert. Very hot. And we pulled up on the Aurora. And you used to get the money that you'd pre-ordered to come down to the mess. So you say, I'll pay £50 and you get whatever the equivalent is in the money. It stank. It was so bad smelling, we had to literally fumigate it with underarm deodorant and stuff like that, and we still didn't get the smell out of it. So that if it was in your wallet, I actually threw mine away. As soon as we got to somewhere else, I bought another one because it was such foul smelling. And I don't know if that's the norm. I think it was just kept in storage somewhere for so long, and it's just probably moulded. It was not good. And the bread, we ordered bread, and this thing, it just collapsed. Literally, as you picked it up, I remember that Steward came down with it, and it was like in a polythene bag, and it was just collapsing inside the bag. Why I would remember that, I don't know, but I do.
I'm just looking, as you were chatting, I just pulled some stuff up here. And now, bearing in mind, when we were travelling overseas, we would often have to go ashore in uniform, depending on where you were. We
did in India, yeah.
Yeah, and you would often be out on your own at night. You'd often be wandering the streets not knowing where you were or where the ship was. You'd often be relying on your inbuilt gyro to get you back to where you need to go because you were too inebriated to actually know where you were or who you were. And I've just pulled this thing up about Djibouti, and it's talking about safety. Terrorist organisation Al-Shabaab maintains an interest in attacking targets in Djibouti. Then it goes on to list all of those. There's a high risk of kidnapping. Don't travel. Pirate attacks are a serious threat. Regional conflicts, petty crime occurs. Don't walk out alone after dark. And I'm thinking, flipping heck. I was doing everything that you shouldn't have been doing when I was out there. I was wandering around on me jolly Jack tar, flipping 10 sheets to the wind most of the time that I was out there. On some of them have been liquid, flipping aviation fuel that you would be consuming. And not literal aviation fuel, but the distillery processes as well, a little bit hot. Yeah, a little bit hot. Yeah, it's just amazing, isn't it, how things have changed in such a short space of time.
Yeah, it's a lot more unstable there now. And of course, right now, because of the Houthis in Yemen, which is across there, I'd imagine there's a lot of ships who are steaming around that part of the world, the Bab el-Mandab Strait. Funnily enough, when we was there in the 80s, when you get beyond Djibouti, you go into the Gulf of Aden, we would sail through past southern Yemen into the Indian Ocean, past Socotra. And Socotra I'd love to go there. It looks an amazing island. They've got some of the weirdest trees. But it used to be a Russian listening station, Soviet-era communications, keeping a tab on the ships going by. So it's highly volatile. And of course, Eritrea, the Eritrean War, was really difficult. In fact, a guy I know round here is from Eritrea, he's from Asmara, and he said, he grew up there in the 90s, and it was, as you have just depicted it, very unstable, and possibly has been for decades. But when we were there, it's probably a bit more stable than it is now.
Yeah, so why was that then? Why is that? Who was in charge of it?
There's a lot there. It's of interest to a lot of Western nations, of course. So there is, if you look at the map of Djibouti right now, one of the first things you'll see is the Embassy of the United States. And the French are there, the French Foreign Legion and the French military. I think there's a lot of NATO ships are always coming in because it was a place to get supplies, get refueled, get the guys off the ship for a couple of days at least, before you went off on patrol into the Gulf. So it's got a massive presence. And if I'm not mistaken, I think China tried to get a station there, a naval base. Whether they did or not, I don't know.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No.
They've certainly got a China Merchants Port holding company there. China Merchants Port invested 23.5% into Djibouti Port.
Oh, there you go.
So, there you go.
It's one of the few places I've been to. I don't remember eating any food there. We must have.
Oh, well, I certainly don't remember eating any food there. The only thing that I really remember there is drinking and seeing the people that were begging on the streets. That was it. I don't recall going on any trips or travel or, like when we'd go into these places, the whatever officer, the liaison officer would put up, trips that you could go on, wouldn't they, on the board, and you could go and do those bits and pieces. I don't recall doing any sort of outside trips there.
No.
Not at all.
I think you could. I think you could go and see some of the salt pans out. And of course, if you look at the map now, the stuff that you see in the map probably wasn't there in the early 80s. I think it's expanded. In fact, I'm just looking at the map. There's definitely one place that would have caught our attention, and it's in French, and it's the the College de Focuzawa. Focuzawa. I don't know how it's pronounced, but that's how it's spelled. And of course, you know what the sailors like. We would have gone there just to take a photo. There's actually a photo when we was in the Gulf, and it was myself and Wayne Graham, and we was walking down. It may have been Bahrain, and there was a shop there called Mustafa Wee. So of course,
Mustafa Wee.
Of course, we all stood there and posed as though we did.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, which is
it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it?
Totally inappropriate to the Arabic culture, and I do apologise.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so Djibouti. I mean, I'm glad I went. Historically important, but
yeah. Likewise, I'm glad I went. You know, it was exposure to a completely different world to the world that I grew up in, and an exposure to different people that I'd never have met. You know, fascinating to see the difference. Fascinating, but just so dreadfully poor when I was out there.
And dry.
Dreadfully poor. Yeah. Very dry, very, very hot.
You can tell how desert it is just by looking at Google Maps.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, the colour, it's dun coloured and brown, but beautiful in its own right, especially when the sun goes down. And the Gulf is supposed to be really pleasant to go and visit.
Yeah.
All right then, boy.
I don't think I'll be heading back in a hurry.
Well, we'll wait and see. You never know.
You never know. You never know.
All right then.
I suspect I won't.
No.
Take care, fella. Look after yourself. Bye.